Good morning, everyone. This is Corey and Steve here for your Ankerstar Wealth Daily Update. We've got a juicy show today, tiny market update. We're going to talk some NVIDIA earnings, some ELF earnings. I mean, you want to talk about ELF beauty. There's definitely some beauty to what's going on today. And then Steve is going to get into something possibly even more beautiful, which the Bitcoin side of things, but maybe not exactly talking Bitcoin today. All right. Before I get started, I want to remind everyone that this is a financial education presentation. You must do your own due diligence before acting on anything you hear in this presentation. More disclaimer information can be found on ankerstarwealth.com, and the opinions expressed are mine and Steve's alone. Okay, so just a kind of a quick tiny market update. The market's kind of flat today. Sort of some odd news in a sense came out last night that a court had blocked the reciprocal tariffs. And I don't know about you, but the first thing that popped into my mind was that there was one distinct individual who had, I can't even imagine what reaction. Did that come into your mind, Steve?
Yeah, I chuckled when I saw the headline, and everybody's thinking the market's going to scream higher. It's just like, well, just hold on a second, right? Trump will have a retort.
I think we can all count on that. But so we'll see how that plays out. And again, yeah, the market's kind of flat today, trying to process that. And really, the market doesn't have a clear direction right now. So we have some progress on the tariff front. We have some progress on the tax front, but we don't have finality really on anything. So we're a little bit of a holding pattern for now. All right, but jumping over to things that we do have finality on, we got some NVIDIA earnings last night. They were to be expected. So I think NVIDIA is now at a point where, are they blowing away their numbers in ways that investors just can't even believe or totally didn't expect? Not really. NVIDIA is sort of past that part of the cycle. Now NVIDIA is in the part of the cycle where, can they do it again? Can they do it again? Can they do it again? And they did do it again. So there will come a day where maybe they don't. But for now, the road is clear. They did have to write off some revenue from China, but that really didn't hold them back. And of course, everyone already knew about that. So things are looking really good. Their new chip is coming out this year, the Blackwell chip, and business as usual. So the market did find relief there. Okay, do you want to jump over and share some about one of our ego stocks? So this is ELF Beauty. And Steve was the one who taught me. I don't know how he became an expert, but ELF stands for eyes, lips, and face. So is that Steve, are you?
That's a girl dad thing that I would know. That. Just saying. So
got it. So ELF Beauty, they had good numbers, a good report. They've been run by the same CEO for a long time. I'm actually going to zoom out here. You might have started to hear about ELF in like 2018. The stock was $10 a share, $15 a share. The CEO figured out a strategy for like a social media based, influencer based strategy around that time. And you saw that the stock ran from, $8, $10 a share up to $200 a share in 2024. The fundamentals never stopped improving. Things were business as usual there, but because of that tariff uncertainty, they do source from China. And I mean, frankly, some of their year-over-year growth numbers had been up in like the 60, 70% revenue growth numbers, and they've dropped down more like 20%. And so there's a little bit of that there, but still some exponential growth opportunity. They turned in a really good quarter, and they did something else that's kind of very innovative. And I'll tell you how it ties into their other success that they've had. But I want to show you this. So what makes ELF Beauty an exponential growth opportunity that we identified at Ankerstar Wealth? You can see right there by unit share look at the plus or minus percent unit share between e.l.f. Beauty Cosmetics and every other competitor. They've been the only one growing unit share quarter over quarter for many months. So here you have 24 consecutive quarters, not even a single quarter break of net sales and market share growth, taking market share from their competitors through their social media strategies. Oh, Stephen, part of that weakness that you saw last year was when the TikTok ban.
Right.
They have used TikTok for reach. So the TikTok ban and the tariffs, it was that was a tough couple of months for them to navigate, for sure. But this is what draws us to something like e.l.f., a one-of-one cosmetic brand to gain market share for 24 consecutive quarters. And then you get this. Yesterday, they announced a $1 billion acquisition of Hailey Bieber's cosmetics company, Rhode Skin. It's called Rhode Skin. Couple interesting things about Rhode Skin. Founded in 2022. They only have 10 products. And last year, they did $212 million of revenue. But their only revenue source is direct to consumer through their website. They've signed a deal with Sephora. I've never been in a Sephora, but I've seen them. And so they're probably, that revenue there, I mean, you're probably looking at a pretty quick double there, adding an outlet like Sephora. Here's where this ties into, so obviously the growth, e.l.f. is all about that. Oh, and there's their CEO, Tarang. You may end up hearing his name again. He's been the guy who's seen this entire vision through. He's earned a lot of trust. He's like the Jensen, the Jensen of cosmetics or something. But this is where it fits in. You go to Rhode Skin on TikTok. You're looking at 1.5 million followers. Hailey Bieber, of course, is all over it. If you haven't heard the name Bieber, you're lying. You're lying. You've heard it. So there's overlap. Here's where they don't have overlap. Rhode Skin products are at a higher price point. So e.l.f. is like an entry product. Rhode Skin is more of a premium product. So they only have 10 products, 200 million in revenue. You're looking at obviously growth of outlets, growth of growth in itself, growth of product count and offerings, and then also it's a different price point, different kind of consumer. So it's still an ego stock for us. And we'll continue following that story as it unfolds. But Steve, that's all I've got.
Yeah, well, I've been in a Sephora more often than I care to admit. And I will say from the person generally swiping the card at the end of the transaction, I'm pretty happy with e.l.f. Beauty and their initiatives to offer a lower price point to the masses. But I do think one thing's indicative. We love looking at charts and we love looking at, of course, when we get it right. We don't always get it right, but yeah, we're going to take a victory lap on e.l.f. Beauty. And it's because things change, and it's very tough to detect the change that's going on in history when you're in the middle of it. And a lot of, but that's really what's happening when you think of who the famous people are, who the respected people in the society. I'm a generation older than Corey, which is a generation older than the younger folks hitting the scene right now. But we would have like movie stars and CEOs and politicians were kind of like and famous athletes were our role models. Well, that's kind of transitioned from these people in power to kind of the influencer society, to where kind of anybody who takes to the internet and works their brand can now become somebody that's looked up to. So they don't have to have necessarily the back or the parents that were famous, or you can kind of come out of nowhere and really become influential. Which when I heard the influencer thing, I'm old enough to where I get to eye roll at things, and I rolled it a little bit, but now I understand a lot more, and it helps having two a young 20-year-old and a late teenager in the house. That kind of helps me understand these things. But yeah, really things are popping up out of nowhere, and these now become the influencers and the brand ambassadors, which is a real thing. Versus traditional advertising, if you will. And then again, the influence of TikTok is don't necessarily take financial advice off TikTok, but it is a good place to learn. about what's going on. So with that, I want to transition. So we're happy about what's going on in NVIDIA as our AI play, Elf Beauty as a play out to the masses at a cheaper price point of something that, eye, lips, and face are very important to a lot of people. And I get daily feedback on that from my own personal environment, right? But to Bitcoin. Now, this is not about Bitcoin, about why you should invest in it. It's more of what's going on in the world. And I'm going to take your screen here for a second, Corey, and share out some tabs. So let's see if I can successfully do this. Share. Okay, so that's us. We don't need to look at us. There we go. Corey, are you seeing the Bitcoin 2025 window?
Yes, sir. All
Excellent.
good.
So this is, I just went to this conference and I wasn't planning on going. If you saw my background earlier, I'm in Port Aransas. The girls wanted to come down here for a week and I needed to get away for a little bit. So I'd planned to be down here Monday through Friday. And then there's some initiatives we're doing with our models and some different strategies that's very compelling. And we're right in the middle of making history in Bitcoin too. I think 2025 is the year that you're really going to see a breakout. It's back above 100,000 price point. The use cases are many, if you will, and there's a lot of horsepower behind it. So if you've been worried in the past about, so the bottom line is, I talked to some folks at Bitwise, and I was showing them some of the things we're doing, and they're like, "Hey, you need to get a larger audience for what you're doing because you're really on the cutting edge," and we are of some of the things we're using. So I spent 2 days up there. I went up there Monday and yesterday, and I left after Vice President Vance spoke yesterday morning. To come back. But the reason I went up there is to meet some of the fellow CEOs and influential folks that are really trying to change how to invest in Bitcoin and using some options that are really just not options, but different methods that are coming up that are a little bit safer than just owning Bitcoin outright. So I wanted to go up there. If you have any doubt, it was crazy. It was 30 to 35,000 people. I was on an industry pass, so I got a little bit of VIP treatment, which was nice. A couple of days ago, I put out a live stream video where I took from my phone. It's a terrible video, but maybe you might enjoy watching me struggle trying to walk and talk and explain things, which I'm not very good at. But you still might find it entertaining from that perspective. But it's really what I want to impress upon you is that Bitcoin's not going away. It's not a fad. It's not it's all make believe. It's just not. You have the sitting vice president there. You can see on the screen was one of the speakers, Michael Saylor. You've probably heard that name before. If you haven't heard Russ Ulbricht, again, went to jail for 10 years for Silk Road, has now been released, official pardon by Trump for some of the early Bitcoin work that he did.
Is that the guy from like Lake Travis High School in Austin, or?
I don't know if he's from Austin. You can look that up while I'm talking.
All right.
Let us know at the end because I'd be curious. But yeah, one of the initial power players, if you will. And then as I scroll down through here, you're looking sitting senators. About the crypto czar David Sachs. There's White House CEO. All of Vivek spoke. Obviously, he's very entertaining. If you ever watch him speak, he's running for governor in Ohio. Byron Donalds is, a House member from Florida running for governor of Florida next year. So we're literally talking this. There is so much support for Bitcoin and what it can offer this country, what it can offer the globe as far as an alternative store of value and a monetary system and how all it's going to play out. It's just amazing the support that they have. So you can look at it. There's a million names down here. So, but that's not the important part. If you do want to spend 26 minutes to learn about the world, there's if you look at this link right here, and I'll make sure to put it in the show notes. But there's a Bitcoin Q&A session. It's 26 minutes long. It is a must watch if you want to hear Michael Saylor's version of the world. He's think Elon Musk. He's a visionary, and in my opinion, he's rewriting the corporate finance books because we have something that came out as a store of value that we've never really had before. We kind of assigned that to gold, but gold is just a thing. This is now a true digital store of capital that we've never had before, which rewrites a lot of the corporate finance stuff. And there's many initiatives going forward. Watch that. It's worth 26 minutes of your time. And, Bitcoin is something, if you really want to understand it, you do have to take it upon yourself to study it. I spend more time than I care to admit reading and learning on a daily basis, because I do think we are in the middle of history and we are changing. I mean, this will change everything, and it will change everything for the better. It's a welcome need versus the fiat currencies that we've that were, the dollar since World War II kind of rebuilt the world. And, we exported our dollars, and also, we hollowed out our middle class and our manufacturing base. And a lot of things came out of World War II that was a necessity, but it changed our society. And we're just now starting to realize that it's just, things are changing, right? And we are 37 trillion in debt, and that, nobody seems to be concerned with changing that. But Michael Saylor addresses these far more eloquently than I ever could, so it's worth a listen. Okay, let's talk about some specifics about what we learned there. This is Strategy's website. It's good for kind of all things Bitcoin, if you will, and it's got the appropriate orange number. Bitcoin price sitting at 106,000. It was at 77 not too long ago. So I think it's above 100,000 to stay. That's my opinion. That's not a price prediction or a forward-looking statement. That's just what I think, right? So it may dip below. It may never look back. I don't know. We shall see. But when you look at these, you have MicroStrategy, which Michael Saylor is the CEO of MicroStrategy, and they're taking a lot of initiatives which we haven't really seen before. And they've come up with two offerings, STRK and STRF. If you're one of my clients in Ankerstar Wealth, you will see this in your portfolio at some point as a preferred stock. So as a fixed income instrument. STRK pays 8%, and it's a dividend. It's not income, so it's tax favored down at the end. So we're really, me personally, and then I'm educating, the part of this video is to educate the rest of the team on how these things work, is it's really superior fixed income exposure than traditional investment grade or even high yield bonds. That's my opinion. They've only been around for a few months, so I don't have the track record to be able to hang my hat on it. But as things are changing, this is where you're going to want to allocate your capital. Again, 8%, and it's a convertible preferred. We'll get into what a preferred is in a second, but this is convertible at some point in time in the future to the strategy stock, which is MSTR. The other version is STRF, which is a far more pure income instrument. And you can see down here where I'll get the little box to pop up, it's paying a straight 10% dividend. It pays quarterly, which means 2.5% quarterly, which what does all that mean? If you put $100,000 in, you're going to get $2,500 a quarter in perpetuity, right? Not a bond that has a maturity date at the end. This is going to go on forever. And I'll talk in a second about how they are able to do that when nobody's really been able to do that before. So those are the STRK, STRF are the two preferreds that are out there. The STRK converts if you want. The STRF is a perpetual preferred. So what is a preferred stock? That could take an hour just to explain that, but really we'll look at the key takeaways. When you hear of a capital stack, you know debt holders get paid first. So if they have bonds, or if a company gets in trouble, they have to pay those first. Then preferreds next, and then the common equity at the end. So it has at the bottom line there. It's probably this is the best explanation. It has characteristics of both bonds because it pays a fixed dividend in this case out while it has common stock kind of tendencies, if you will. So they're priced at par, which is 100. They both moved up from 100 right now. And honestly, I think they're going to probably move up to 150 or so. But that's not why you own them. You want to own them because you want the income that's coming off it. So if you're like, okay, I like the idea of Bitcoin, but I don't want the volatility of a chart that moves, all over the place, you can have a fixed income component. So if you have some individual bonds in your portfolio, you'll see that we're kind of getting rid of those and moving into this type of instrument. So how can a company that holds Bitcoin offer preferred stocks that pay dividend when Bitcoin obviously is not kicking off cash? Well, I want to introduce you to the last person today, and that's Jack Mallers, 21 Capital. He was the CEO of, Strike or Tether. He's fairly young, just turned, he's in his early 30s now. But he's been in Bitcoin since he was 18, and he really is a thought leader in the space. And when you think of is MicroStrategy, and ask Michael Saylor this, is like, are you guys looking to become a bank? And the answer is no, they're not a bank, but they will. Here's how they're able to pay that 8 and 10% is they will get into lending. So when you think of the entire lending space right now, so bear with me as I try to explain this in short order. Is right now, you have your house and you probably took a mortgage to get into your house. And we were, people of my age were taught to always pay down their house and, make sure you own your house outright. Okay, we were taught that. Then interest rates went below 4%. And then it was now you should want to use leverage instead of a mortgage, just lever into a house and you can make more money. The basic analysis is, you put 500, if it's a $500,000 house and you pay 500,000 for it in cash, and over a few years it moves up 100,000, you've made 20% over those several years. But if you just put 100,000 down and finance the rest, then in 5 years when it's moved up 100,000, you've actually doubled your money. You've made 100%. And if you don't get that math, you're not going to get anything I'm going to say from here, because that's just, it's using leverage as a tool versus debt. Debt kind of is viewed as bad. Leverage is good. Kind of think of it like fire. If you don't know what you're doing with fire, you will burn yourself or burn your house down. But we all have, for those of us that know how to use fire, we have fire sources within our homes and hot water heaters in our stoves that are there, and they're very safe. And, we use them as tools to make our life better. So this is the same thing with that debt and leverage situation. But the way they're using these companies that are loading up in Bitcoin, that are buying it outright, are called Bitcoin treasury companies. And you can see, I'll try to highlight it here. 21 Capital is going to be one of these coins, and again 21 because there's only going to be 21 million Bitcoin when it's all mined. But they're able to. So right now, when you go to, if you need money and you're trying to borrow money, you can borrow against your house. You can get a HELOC. You can do a cash out refinance, or you can go to a bank with your business plan. And the traditional banking model, in my opinion, will go away. It'll either mature into a new form or it will be decimated, because the days of, or you can go to a credit card and get a loan, right? If you have a credit card, you have a limit, you can get up to that limit, and you're going to pay 20% for the privilege of doing that if you can't pay it back right away. But so there's certain access you have as a member of the U.S. To be able to access capital, to be able to go do things, build, start a business, whatever it is you want to do. So with Bitcoin, they're going to have a bunch of Bitcoin on their balance sheet. And again, this is ultimately to answer the question of how can their preferreds pay out cash, is they're going to be doing Bitcoin lending. And when you think of, when you go to the bank to take a HELOC out on your house, you have to get an official appraisal, which takes days, and then a bunch of paperwork. If you haven't gone through this in a while, it's pretty painful. It's an archaic system. It's straight from the 80s, and it's still the same today. But the bank has to make some analysis of the value of your house, and then applies to some, LTV ratios, loan to value ratios, as to how much they can lend to you based off of the value of that house or a business. If you're looking for a, corporate financing, and there's a judgment call in there, and then they either say yes or no. So you could be going down this road for 30 days and then get a no answer, which that just doesn't work anymore, right? When you have Bitcoin lending, is you have, say personally you have 2 Bitcoin. And right now that's, $212,000 of value. Is these Bitcoin lending companies are going to be able to, in a period of, they say 12 hours, you can say, hey, I would like to put up 2 Bitcoin as collateral and take a 50% loan to value loan from there. So you collateralize 2 Bitcoin, and then one of these companies like 21 Capital or MicroStrategy will give you half of that, so a little over $100,000. If you default, they keep your Bitcoin. If you pay them back, they're going to charge a 12% interest rate, which is high. But then again, if you can have access overnight, that's where that 12% is coming from. And then they will take that money and then pay out their 8 and 10% preferreds based off of these loans that they will do. So when you think of, when Michael Saylor was asked, are you guys going to become banks? He said, no, not in the traditional sense, but they're going to be able to they're going to be able to lend versus an asset, with, again, it's a fluctuation value, but they'll be able to lend. And if you don't pay them back and you default, they just simply keep your Bitcoin, which they would rather have anyway. But that's how they're able to pay such a high percentage out to you as a client. So if you want to participate in these, get on the other side of it. It's, again, STRK and STRF are the two holdings. They're up here on top of the strategy page. You can obviously click on those and read about them and educate yourself a little bit more. But I do think what we are seeing is a change in history that we have not seen before, as far as there are instruments to make a higher fiat return, fiat being the dollar, than you've ever seen before, based on it being backed by an asset as unique as Bitcoin. So threw a lot at you there for what's going on. Obviously, if you want to know more, reach out to your advisor. This is so new that our advisors are getting up to speed too. There's definitely going to be some different opinions on the risk level of this. I view this as not much more risk than a U.S. Treasury. There's obviously different thoughts out there where it's could be considered high yield, but and thrown, which is called junk as well. But when you look at the asset that's collateralized, I think it's a 100x safer bet than a junk bond on a struggling business that's out there. So with that, I will stop sharing here in a second. And Corey, back over to you for any thoughts you want to add on that.
No, I think you've left the people with plenty to think about and to chew on. So with that being said, we will hope everyone has an amazing day. Drop any comments or questions that you have in that section down there. Give us a like, and we will see you tomorrow. Goodbye.